I think that most people that I've worked with are receptive to at least a certain degree.
Yeah.
And they take the advice of somebody who's been there and knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a creative aspect, but in a technical aspect.
Right.
Maybe try it this way. Maybe take one of the earphones off so
Right.
you can hear your live voice in the room. That
Right.
kind of stuff.
Right.
A lot of young people coming up that have never been in a studio before don't know those things. So most of them will at least try try your ideas out.
I mean, you would hope that would be the case, that people would be looking for a bit of guidance now, where we all have bedroom studios, right? I mean, it's so easy now. You can have a studio on your iPad, so I can record my album and then upload it to SoundCloud, and now I'm a musician or an artist,
right?
Yeah. One of the other things that I think I read it, I don't know if it was the same article or not, but there are rules, and it's got to be different because you're the engineer, but it's also your studio,
right?
So there's a certain level of ownership there, and there are rules that you had when you're in the studio.
Yeah. And
you'd think that, like, you wouldn't have to tell people, come on, man. But obviously,
sometimes, yeah. I do have, like, if you go to my website, which is zebulondak.com, by the way, if you go there to get, and you can schedule a session right there through the website. There is a link. Please click here to read our guidelines. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of firm rules as to what is and isn't allowed. Now, one thing I don't allow inside the studio is smoking. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously been a point of contention for years.
I can imagine, especially with this genre of music.
Right. But I don't feel like somebody smoking a blunt in a 10 by 10 room that doesn't have any ventilation is conducive to me being able to do my job to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? So,
and there's gear in there. There's expensive gear in there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, the only real rules is no smoking, no fighting.
Yeah.
You got, I work with a lot of guys from a lot of different areas and people that feel different kind of ways about each other and that kind of thing. It's the studio's no place for it.
Yeah.
That's I think my biggest rule is, if it's going to be an issue, take it outside of the studio. Go do it somewhere else. If you got to do it somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Have you had that? Have you been in those situations where you've had to, like, stop a session?
No, I haven't. And it's funny, when I took over at Momentum, there had been stories of fights. But I've only ever had one time where there was really anything physical that happened, and they were able to keep it from actually happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think people appreciate kind of the sanctuary of the studio, because they're all there for the same reason too, and it's because they want to succeed at making music. They want to So I don't think it's that difficult for them to say, okay, this is separate from whatever else is going on. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I've had some weird requests over the years for certain kind of things people wanted to do. And,
like during sessions?
Yeah. This goes back to the same thing I said in that article you were reading about. Requests of certain things people wanted to do in the booth to get an audio recording of it, where I've had to be like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, you can find somewhere to do that on your own time. Right. You know what I mean? If you absolutely need that. But, most of the time, it's not even something you have to think about, because people tend to be respectful enough. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand, when people are in a creative mode, I kind of try to give them their space too. I mean, I don't like people coming up and touching knobs and buttons, or sticking their grimy fingertips on my screen. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
I also understand when somebody's in their creative mode, they're not necessarily thinking about that kind of stuff. So, unless somebody really crosses any lines, I usually let it go. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I again, it's gotta be, it's funny because I had an opportunity to go to a Trailblazer game with my friend DJ OG1, and was like down on the floor with him when he was spinning for the team, like during warm-ups, and it was up when he's up in the booth, and it was just sort of cool, like, you down there, like, and there's Dave, and there's CJ, and like right there, like dapping you up or whatever. and we were probably like at halftime when that initial sort of adrenaline wears off, and then you realize, and I said to him, I was like, bro, I just want to work with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that sort of, like for me, it's exciting, but for him, I'm sure it's exciting as well, but he's just going to work.
It's not the same kind of excitement.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I would imagine it's similar for you. Like these cats are coming in the studio, and I'm in the studio, and I'm working on this record, and I, have all these plans and these dreams. And for you, it's like, yeah, I'm at work, B. So, you know what I mean? Let me work.
Right. Well, and especially now too, just over the last couple of years, going live on social media has become a thing where, we got like a 19, 20-year-old dude and a couple of his friends, and they come in the studio, their first time in a studio, they're wide-eyed, and it's like a huge moment for them. And then they got their phones out, and they're live on Facebook, and they're jumping around and dancing, and and they want to be holding their Draco out, or have a blunt lid, and then I'm like, look, this is my workspace. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to give me a little bit of room, and I got to hear. That's another thing people seem to forget is like, I'm listening. Like you can have whatever kind of conversation you want to behind me, but I'm working on your music.
Right.
And if you want your music to come out right, you got to shut up for a little bit.
right. Yeah.
And I turn it up louder, and then they talk louder.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean? That'll work.
Yeah. It's funny. Like in particular, it's when I'm doing radio edits. I'll have full-on conversations going on behind me, and I'm like, I have to listen. You've heard your song 1,000 times,
right? But
I don't know it that well.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta be quiet so I can hear and make sure I'm getting all the right words out of there.
Yes.
So Klyph can play it on the radio show.
Yes. And let me take a minute right here to say, Zeb, publicly, thank you so much for doing such a great job on the radio edits, B. So
Yeah, no
man.
sweat. Happy to do it.
My guy Zebulon Dak here on Klyph Notes. I'm gonna take just a quick second, man. I gotta shout out my folk over at Acapella Apparel, man. They've been supporting the Klyph Notes podcast for a year now, and it's been cool to have them support what we're doing. And it's cool to be connected with a local brand doing things in the city. You can check them out at acapella.com. That's AKEPELE.com. They really actually have some really cool stuff.
They do plus sizes.
They do. They got big boy size. You see me rocking acapella right now, man, and I can't rock with the size mediums. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They just released a new dope project, sort of an ode to the b-boy. So you can check them out. Check out the new tee. I know they also brought back the Hip Hop Boulevard tee and sweatshirts, which I have both of them. They're really cool. So check them out, acapella.com. Chopping up with my guy Zebulon Dak. So as you're getting further into the engineering and recording process, and obviously you have your crew around you, so folk that of course I'm gonna rock with these guys. Was there ever an artist you thought, man, I really love to have this individual like come through, and then it happened?
It's happened. Yeah. It's funny because I hear about guys so much, and I work with people that, everybody knows everybody.
Right.
So it's almost like you forget that you don't know somebody. Like I think I saw Vinny Dwayne on the street one time, and I realized he doesn't know me. Like I thought I was gonna go and say what's up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't know me yet. And so I remember he came in the studio finally, and we got a picture together, and I was like, wait a minute, you never been in here before?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I swear to God, I feel like I know you already almost, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was the same thing with Mike Capes and Glenn Waco, Rashid Jamal. It's almost like and I think social media probably ties into this a lot, is like, I feel like I know these guys before I even met them. You know what I mean? So when they do come into the studio, it's like easy, it just works. So definitely.
With the people that you do know, folk like Sleep, Henri, XP, I mean, like people whose careers have grown outside of the region, and then they're connecting with people outside of the region, bringing people into the city. Names of artists that some of the listeners might know that you've had an opportunity to record aside from local folk.
So some people that I've worked with, Latrell James from Boston. He's the one that did the Cheerios that good goes around and around and around. Yeah, he was on Henri's duo album, so I got to work with his voice a little bit, not him personally necessarily, but his voice. Yeah, you know, got to do cool things like have Mr. Fab in the studio, Aesop Rock. I'm trying to think of who else. I had the Jacket in there.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
You know, you end up working with people that you don't expect you ever would. Right. You know what I mean?
So when those people, you know, when those opportunities come your way, I don't even know. Do you get like starstruck at all? Do you fanboy out, or is it just like?
Not so much. I think by the time I actually was able to get Aesop Rock in the studio, who was probably the one I would have fanboyed the most over. I'd known him then long enough at that point that it was, oh yeah, okay, well Ace is in the booth now, you know what I mean. But yeah, like he was, you know, my favorite rapper for a real long time. And not to say that he's not my favorite rapper anymore. I don't necessarily know that I have a favorite rapper at this point, but but yeah, it'd have been different if it had been 10 years ago.
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm used to all this stuff now, so it's, you know, still cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely don't do any freaking out. I don't have to go in the bathroom and catch my breath or anything like that. You know what I mean?